Chief Engineer Zara 9 stood before the massive holographic display, her crystalline appendages reflecting the soft blue glow of countless data streams. The Chamber of Solutions, heart of the Galactic Engineering Council's headquarters on Centaur Prime, hummed with the nervous energy of 24 of the galaxy's finest minds. None of them wanted to be the first to admit defeat again. 37 attempts, she announced, her voice modulator barely masking her frustration. 37 distinct approaches from 15 different civilizations, and the resonance sphere remains as incomprehensible as ever. The sphere, if one could call it that, floated in the center of their most secure containment facility 3 levels below. It defied conventional geometry, its surface shifting between dimensions in ways that made even the quantum-minded Valerians uncomfortable. Discovered 3 centuries ago in the ruins of what scholars call the precursor civilization, it had resisted every attempt at analysis, categorization, or activation. Administrator Kelvik, their Arcturian overseer, rippled his energy form in what passed for a sigh among his kind. The High Council grows impatient, Zara. The artifact's energy emissions have increased by 17% in the past solar cycle. If we cannot understand its purpose, we risk it destabilizing half the sector, Zara finished. She'd run the simulations herself, 1,000 times, unaware. The assembled engineers, representing species that had mastered everything from dark matter manipulation to temporal engineering, watched the latest scan results scroll across their neural interfaces. The sphere's surface temperature had risen another fraction of a degree, and its quantum signature was becoming increasingly erratic. First Science Director ENX 427, a being of pure mathematical fault from the Rigel system, projected their calculations into the shared consciousness space. Our latest analysis suggests the artifact operates on principles that predate our understanding of universal constants. It's as if it's running on a different set of physics altogether, Zara completed the thought. She'd had the same disturbing conclusion weeks ago, but had been reluctant to voice it. Such an admission would shake the foundations of galactic science. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, each species communicating in their preferred method, from electromagnetic pulses to gravitational waves. The cacophony perfectly matched Zara's inner turmoil. Impossible. The constants are constant. That's why we call them constants. Perhaps our fundamental assumptions. Enough. Zara's voice cut through the chaos. Her crystalline form vibrated with authority, sending harmonic ripples through the chamber's atmosphere. We need to consider alternatives. The word hung in the air like a controversial theorem. In the 10,000 years since the Galactic Engineering Council's founding, they had solved every technical challenge the universe had thrown at them. They had built Dyson spheres, engineered stable wormholes, and even managed to slow entropy in controlled spaces. But this was different. Administrator Kelvik's energy form condensed, a sign of intense focus. You have a proposal, Chief Engineer. Zara interfaced with the central computer, bringing up a star chart. A small, unremarkable system appeared, centered on a yellow dwarf star. There's a species, she began, knowing the controversy her next words would spark, that has demonstrated unique problem-solving capabilities. The chamber went silent, then, predictably, erupted again. The humans. First Science Director ENX 427's thought patterns radiated disbelief. They barely have Level 3 civilization status. They still use chemical rockets for some of their orbital launches, someone added dismissively. And their mathematical models are practically primitive, another chimed in. Zara waited for the objections to subside. They also, she continued firmly, solved the paradox of quantum consciousness in less than a decade after discovering quantum mechanics, something that took the Valerians 3 centuries. They decoded the helix cipher that stumped our best cryptographers. And need I remind everyone of the Rotterdam solution? More silence. The Rotterdam solution had been particularly embarrassing for the Council. A human child had solved it while playing with what they called soap bubbles. Their minds work differently. Zara pressed her advantage. They make connections we don't see. They imagine possibilities we wouldn't consider. And right now, with the sphere's energy levels rising, we can't afford to ignore any possibility. Administrator Kelvick's energy form swirled in contemplation. The political implications of involving a pre-Federation species in a matter of this magnitude will be far less severe than the political implications of having an uncontrolled precursor artifact destabilize in the heart of Council space, Zara countered. The administrator's energy patterns shifted through several probability calculations before settling. Who would you recommend? Zara projected another image. A human research facility called the Institute for Quantum Applications. There's a researcher there, Dr. Catherine Walsh. Her work on quantum harmonics is unorthodox, but she's made breakthroughs that even our most advanced AI systems failed to predict. A single human, first science director Anx 427, pulsed incredulously, against a problem that has defeated our combined intellect for centuries. Zara's crystalline form caught the light, casting complex patterns across the chamber walls. Sometimes, Director, the most elegant solutions come from the simplest perspectives. The sphere chose that moment to pulse, sending a wave of unknown energy through their sensors. The timing wasn't lost on anyone present. Make the arrangements, Administrator Kelvick decided, his energy form already beginning to disperse. But Zara? She turned her senses toward him. If this fails, the responsibility falls on you. Understood, she replied, already composing the carefully worded invitation in her mind. How exactly does one tell a member of a relatively primitive species that the fate of a significant portion of the galaxy might rest in their hands? As the chamber emptied, Zara remained, studying the sphere's latest readings. The patterns were there, she was certain of it. They just couldn't see them. Not yet. Perhaps they needed a perspective unconstrained by 10 millennia of established scientific doctrine. Perhaps they needed someone who still looked at the universe with wonder rather than certainty. Perhaps they needed a human. Dr. Catherine Walsh stared at the holographic message floating above her cluttered desk for the 5th time, convinced she was hallucinating. The quantum lab's dim lighting cast a subtle glow on the stacks of research papers and half-empty coffee cups surrounding her workstation. Read it again, she told her lab's AI assistant. Message from the Galactic Engineering Council, Priority Ultra 7, the AI recited. Dr. Walsh, your unique perspectives on quantum harmonics have come to our attention. We request your immediate assistance with a matter of galactic significance. Transport will arrive at 800 hours tomorrow. Please be prepared for extended off-world consultation. Still sounds real, Catherine muttered, running a hand through her perpetually disheveled dark hair. At 34, she'd become used to being the youngest person in most scientific discussions. But this was different. Her recent paper on quantum resonance patterns in biological systems had been rejected by every major physics journal on Earth. Too speculative, they said, not grounded in established theory, and now the most advanced civilization in known space wanted her help. The lab door hissed open, admitting her research partner, Dr. James Chen. Still thinking it's a prank. Wouldn't be the first time the theoretical physics community tried to mess with me, Catherine replied, but her tone lacked conviction. The authentication codes on the message were unlike anything she'd ever seen. Well, if it is real, James said, perching on the edge of her desk, you'll be the first human to set foot in the Council's inner sanctum. Try not to start an interstellar incident. Catherine snorted. Please, I only cause incidents on a quantum level. The next morning, precisely at 800, Catherine stood in the Institute's parking lot, a small duffel bag at her feet. She'd packed light, mostly because she had no idea what one brings to a consultation with advanced alien civilizations. The transport, when it arrived, wasn't the sleek silver ship she'd expected. Instead, reality seemed to fold in on itself, creating what looked like a doorway made of liquid starlight. A tall, crystalline figure stepped through. Dr. Walsh, the being's voice resonated directly in her mind. "I am Chief Engineer Zara 9. Are you prepared to depart?" Catherine shouldered her bag, trying to project more confidence than she felt. "As I'll ever be." The journey through what Zara 9 called a spatial convenience lasted both an instant and an eternity. When they emerged, Catherine found herself in a vast chamber that seemed to be made entirely of living light. The Chamber of Solutions was nothing like the sterile laboratory she'd imagined. It was organic, alive with swirling data streams and pulsing energy patterns. But what caught her attention immediately was the holographic representation floating in the center of the room. "Is that?" she began, stepping closer to the image. "The artifact we need your help with," Zara confirmed. "We call it the resonance sphere, though that's more a matter of convenience than accuracy." Catherine walked around the hologram, her mind already racing with possibilities. The object's surface seemed to shift and flow, following patterns that tickled the edge of her understanding. "Fascinating," she breathed. "It's like watching a symphony in quantum form." A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the assembled alien engineers. First Science Director Angst 427's thought patterns projected clear skepticism. "Dr. Walsh, we've spent centuries analyzing this artifact using the most advanced quantum sensing equipment in the galaxy. I assure you, it has nothing to do with music." But Catherine wasn't listening. She was too busy watching the way the sphere's surface shifted and flowed. "Those patterns," she muttered, "they're not random. They're harmonic." She turned to Zara. "Do you have any audio recordings of the energy fluctuations?" "Audio recordings?" Administrator Kelvick's energy forms swirled in confusion. "The emissions are purely quantum in nature. They don't produce sound." "Everything produces sound," Catherine insisted. "Or rather, everything can be represented as sound. It's all vibrations, frequencies, harmonies." She pulled a tablet from her bag, already typing calculations. "We just need to transpose the quantum fluctuations into the audible spectrum." The alien engineers exchanged what Catherine assumed were looks of skepticism, though it was hard to tell with beings made of energy and living crystal. "Humor me," she said, not looking up from her tablet. "Your way hasn't worked for 3 centuries, right? Let me try mine." Zara interfaced with the central computer, translating the quantum data into the format Catherine requested. The human's fingers flew across her tablet, making adjustments, tweaking algorithms. And then sound filled the Chamber of Solutions. It wasn't music, not exactly. It was something older, more primal. A rhythm that seemed to bypass the ears entirely and resonate with something deep in the soul, assuming beings of pure energy and living crystal had souls. "There," Catherine said softly. "Listen to that pattern. It's not just random noise. It's speaking." The chamber had gone completely still. Even the most skeptical engineers were transfixed by the haunting sounds emerging from Catherine's crude Earth technology. "Impossible," First Science Director Angst 427 whispered, but there was less certainty in their thought patterns now. "Dr. Walsh," Zara's voice was careful, measured. "Are you suggesting the artifact is attempting to communicate?" Catherine shook her head, still watching the patterns dance across her screen. "Not exactly. I think it's waiting for someone to answer." The implications of her words hung in the air like a mathematical proof waiting to be solved. If she was right, centuries of purely analytical approach had missed something fundamental about the artifact's nature. "But how?" Administrator Kelvick demanded. "How could you possibly know this from a few minutes of observation when our best minds have studied it for centuries?" Catherine finally looked up from her tablet, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Because sometimes the most complex problems have the simplest solutions. You've been trying to decode it like a machine. But what if it's not a machine at all? What if it's an instrument?" The Chamber of Solutions erupted in a chaos of overlapping communications, but Catherine barely noticed. She was too busy watching the sphere's surface ripple in perfect synchronization with the haunting melody she'd extracted from its quantum signature. She had a feeling things were about to get very interesting. 2 weeks had passed since Catherine's initial breakthrough, and the Chamber of Solutions had been transformed. Her primitive Earth equipment now sat alongside the most advanced sensing technology in the galaxy, creating an odd juxtaposition of vacuum tubes and quantum processors. "It's like a musical scale," Catherine explained, gesturing to the complex waveform displayed across multiple holographic screens. But instead of 8 notes, it uses quantum states as its basic units of harmony. Zara 9's crystalline form shifted in what Catherine had learned to recognize as deep thought. "You're suggesting the precursors encoded information in quantum harmonics." "Not just information." Catherine manipulated the display, highlighting a recurring pattern. "Look at this sequence. It repeats every few minutes, but each iteration is slightly different. It's not just playing a message, it's responding to its environment, to us." First Science Director Enx 427, who had remained skeptical but increasingly intrigued, projected their thoughts into the shared space. "But what is it responding to?" "Our attempts to communicate have produced no measurable change in its behavior." Catherine smiled, the kind of smile that had annoyed her professors back on Earth. "That's because you're trying to talk to it in quantum mathematics. It doesn't want equations. It wants," she paused, searching for the right word, "resonance." The chamber's atmosphere tensed with unspoken objections. Administrator Kelvick's energy form condensed to its most formal configuration. "Dr. Walsh, while your audio analysis has provided interesting data, we must remain focused on scientific." "This is scientific," Catherine interrupted, earning a ripple of shock from the assembled engineers. Nobody interrupted the administrator. "Look at these patterns. They're not random, they're not just mathematical. They're alive." She pulled up another display, this one showing the sphere's energy emissions over the past 3 centuries. "See these spikes? They're not malfunctions or power fluctuations. They're attempts at communication. The sphere has been trying to talk to us, but we've been so focused on analyzing it that we never thought to listen." "Listen to what exactly?" A new voice joined the discussion. Dr. Van X, the Council's leading expert on precursor technology, had finally deigned to attend one of their sessions. The tall, silicon-based being regarded Catherine with what might have been contempt. "To random quantum fluctuations translated into primitive audio waves." Catherine stood her ground. "Those primitive audio waves follow patterns that match fundamental universal constants. The ratio between frequencies matches the golden mean. The harmonics align with atomic resonance frequencies. This isn't random, it's composed." Composed. Van X's crystalline appendages clicked in what might have been amusement. "You speak of this artifact as if it were a musical instrument." "Maybe it is." Catherine's excitement overrode her diplomatic training. "Think about it. What if the precursors understood something about quantum mechanics that we've all missed? What if they found a way to encode information not in binary or quantum states, but in the relationships between states?" The chamber fell silent. Even Van X seemed to pause in consideration. Zara stepped forward, her crystalline form catching the light in complex patterns. "Explain." Catherine took a deep breath. "In human music, it's not just about the notes themselves. It's about the relationships between notes, the harmonies, the resonances. What if the precursors found a way to use quantum harmonics the same way? Not just for storage or computation, but for communication." "Communication with what?" Administrator Kelvick demanded. "Or with whom?" Catherine countered. She pulled up new data on the main display. The sphere's emissions have been increasing, yes, but not randomly. They're building towards something, like an orchestra tuning up before a performance. The implications hung in the air like a suspended cord waiting for resolution. "If you're right," Zara said slowly, "then all our attempts to analyze and control the artifact have been like trying to understand a symphony by measuring the density of the paper it's printed on," Catherine finished. First Science Director ENCS 427's thought patterns showed surprising approval. An interesting theory, Dr. Walsh. But how do you propose we test it? Catherine's eyes lit up with the kind of enthusiasm that had once got her banned from her university's quantum lab. We need to stop trying to control it and start trying to play it. Play it? Van X's tone could have frozen hydrogen. This is a precursor artifact, possibly the most advanced piece of technology ever discovered, and you want to treat it like a musical instrument. Exactly. Catherine was already pulling up new diagrams on her tablet. Look at these resonance patterns. They're not just harmonics, they're intervals, keys. If we can match these frequencies, create the right kind of quantum resonance. You want to attempt direct interaction with an artifact we barely understand. Administrator Kelvick's energy form flickered with alarm. The risk is less than the risk of letting it continue to build energy without understanding why. Catherine cut in. She pointed to the latest readings. These patterns are intensifying. Whatever the sphere is trying to do, it's going to do it with or without our help. I'd rather we be part of the symphony than just part of the audience. The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments, each species communicating their objections in their preferred method. But Catherine noticed something interesting. Zara was silent, studying the patterns on the display with an intensity that suggested she might be starting to see what Catherine saw. How? Zara asked finally, cutting through the chaos. How would we create the right resonance? Catherine grinned. I'm going to need some equipment, and she glanced at her tablet. Access to your quantum harmonics lab. Absolutely not, Van X declared. This is unprecedented. So is everything about this artifact, Catherine pointed out. Sometimes unprecedented problems require unprecedented solutions. Administrator Kelvick's energy form swirled in what might have been resignation. Chief Engineer Zara 9, you vouched for Dr. Walsh. Do you support this approach? Zara's crystalline form caught the light, creating complex patterns that seemed to dance with the sphere's own emissions. I support following the evidence, Administrator. And right now, the evidence is singing to us. Perhaps it's time we learn to sing back. The Quantum Harmonics Laboratory looked more like a concert hall than a scientific facility. Catherine had spent 3 days reconfiguring the equipment, much to the horror of the resident engineers. Quantum resonators formed a perfect circle around a central platform where a holographic representation of the sphere floated, pulsing with increasingly complex patterns. This is madness, Dr. Van X declared, watching as Catherine made final adjustments to what she called the quantum synthesizer, a hybrid of Earth music technology and alien quantum manipulation devices. We're risking everything on a human's musical intuition. Sometimes madness is just genius that hasn't been proven yet, Catherine muttered, her fingers dancing across the control interface. She'd barely slept in days, sustained by a combination of excitement and what passed for coffee in the council's facilities. Zara 9 stood at the laboratory's main control station, her crystalline form reflecting the shimmer of quantum energies. All safety protocols are in place. If anything goes wrong, we can shut down the entire system in 0.3 microseconds. Catherine looked up from her work. Actually, we need to disable those protocols. The room went still. Even the ambient hum of quantum processors seemed to pause. Explain, Administrator Kelvick demanded, his energy form crackling with concern. The safety protocols are designed to prevent quantum resonance beyond certain frequencies, Catherine said, pulling up a complex diagram. But look at these patterns from the sphere. It's operating way beyond those limits. If we want to match its harmonics, we need the freedom to reach those same frequencies. Impossible, Van X declared. The protocols exist for a reason. Without them, we risk quantum cascade failure across the entire facility. Or worse, First Science Director ENCS 427 added, their thought patterns radiating concern. We could create a quantum entanglement loop that could theoretically affect the entire sector. Catherine stood up straight, facing the assembled aliens with determination. You brought me here because nothing else has worked. The sphere's energy levels are still rising. In less than 48 hours, they'll reach critical levels. We're out of options and out of time. The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. She was right. Their latest calculations showed the sphere's energy buildup was approaching dangerous levels. Zara's crystalline form shifted, catching the light in complex patterns. What exactly do you propose, Dr. Walsh? Catherine took a deep breath. I think the sphere isn't just waiting for a response, it's waiting for the right response. These patterns, she gestured to the displays showing the quantum harmonics. They're like a musical phrase waiting for its answer. We need to complete the harmony. By playing quantum music, Van X's tone dripped with skepticism. By speaking its language, Catherine corrected. Look at these resonance patterns. They're not random, they're structured, like a conversation. But instead of words, it uses quantum harmonics. We need to respond in kind. She moved to the central platform, where her hybrid interface waited. I've programmed the quantum synthesizer to translate our response into the same harmonic language the sphere uses. But to match those frequencies, we need full control. No limiters, no safety protocols. Administrator Kelvik's energy form swirled in agitation. The risk is less than the risk of doing nothing, Catherine interrupted. The sphere's energy buildup isn't stopping. If we don't try this, we're just waiting for catastrophe. A tense silence filled the laboratory. The assembled engineers exchanged what passed for glances among their various species. Finally, Zara spoke. She's right. We're out of alternatives. The crystalline engineer moved to her control station, beginning safety protocol override. Warning messages flashed across every screen in the laboratory. Red emergency lights began to pulse. Wait, Van X stepped forward. This is unprecedented. We need time to calculate the possibilities, to analyze the potential outcomes. No, Catherine said firmly, her hands already moving across her interface. What we need is to stop analyzing and start listening. The quantum synthesizer hummed to life, its resonators beginning to pulse in harmony with the sphere's emissions. Catherine's fingers moved across the controls with the precision of a concert pianist. Energy levels rising, someone announced. Quantum field stability at 89% and dropping. Catherine ignored them, her focus entirely on the patterns flowing across her display. The sphere's emissions had changed. They were stronger now, more focused. Field stability at 75%. Quantum cascade warning in sectors 7 through 12. But Catherine wasn't listening to the warnings. She was listening to something else, the complex harmony of quantum states singing to each other across the void. There, she whispered. Do you hear it? And suddenly, impossibly they did. The sphere's emissions changed, its patterns shifting to match the frequencies Catherine was generating. The quantum field stabilized, then began to pulse with a new rhythm, a harmony of human and precursor technology singing together across the quantum realm. The laboratory's displays erupted with new data as the sphere's surface began to shift and flow in ways they'd never seen before. But Catherine didn't need the displays to know what was happening. She could hear it. My God, she breathed, watching as the quantum harmonics aligned in perfect synchronization. It's not just responding, it's teaching us how to speak its language. The assembled engineers watched in stunned silence as humanity's musical intuition and the precursor's quantum technology began to dance together in ways their most advanced theories had never predicted. The symphony was just beginning. The Quantum Harmonics Laboratory had become a symphony of light and energy. The sphere's emissions, now synchronized with Catherine's quantum harmonics, created patterns that transformed the very air into shimmering waves of possibility. Energy conversion at 200% of theoretical maximum, an automated system announced. Quantum coherence exceeding known parameters. Catherine stood at her control interface, her eyes closed, fingers moving across the controls with intuitive precision. To the assembled alien engineers, It looked less like scientific procedure and more like a performance. The patterns, Zora 9 observed, her crystalline form vibrating in resonance with the harmonics. They're becoming more complex. Not more complex, Catherine corrected without opening her eyes. More coherent. It's like it's teaching us its native language. The holographic displays surrounding them showed quantum states that shouldn't have been possible, patterns of energy that defied their understanding of universal constants. The sphere's surface had become a cascade of shifting geometries, each transformation synchronized with the harmonics Catherine was generating. Impossible, Dr. Van X muttered, though with less conviction than before. These energy states violate at least 7 fundamental laws of quantum mechanics. Or maybe, Catherine suggested, her hands never stopping their dance across the controls, our understanding of those laws is incomplete. Suddenly, the sphere's emissions changed. The harmonics shifted to a new key, creating a resonance that made every piece of equipment in the laboratory vibrate in sympathy. "It's ready," Catherine announced. "It wants to show us something." "Show us what?" Administrator Kelvik demanded, his energy form condensing with concern. Before Catherine could answer, the sphere's surface began to transform. The shifting patterns coalesced into something new, a 3-dimensional representation of quantum states that moved and flowed like living mathematics. By all the constants, first science director at ANX 427 breathed, their thought patterns radiating astonishment. "It's a quantum neural network." "Not just any network," Catherine said, her eyes now open and fixed on the display. "Look at the structure. It's not processing information, it's storing it. The entire sphere is a quantum memory system." The implications hit the assembled engineers like a gravitational wave. If Catherine was right, they weren't looking at just another piece of advanced technology. They were looking at the preserved knowledge of an entire civilization. The harmonics, Zara realized, her crystalline form shimmering with excitement. They're not just a communication protocol. They're the key to accessing the stored data. Catherine nodded, her fingers still moving across the controls, maintaining the delicate quantum dialogue she'd established. The precursors didn't just build a database. They built a quantum library that could only be accessed by species capable of understanding and reproducing these specific harmonic patterns. But why? Venex demanded. Why encode their knowledge in such an obtuse manner? Because they wanted to ensure that only civilizations who understood both the science and the art of quantum harmonics could access their knowledge, Catherine explained. It's not just about technological advancement, it's about perspective, understanding. The sphere's emissions pulsed stronger, its surface now displaying complex sequences that seemed to ripple through multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Look at this," Catherine said, highlighting a particular pattern. "These aren't just random harmonics. They're telling a story. The precursors found a way to encode not just data, but experience, emotion, understanding, everything that made them who they were." Administrator Kelvik's energy form swirled with concern. "If you're right, the implications are beyond anything we imagined," Catherine finished. "This isn't just a technological artifact, it's a bridge, a way for one civilization to share its deepest insights with those who come after." The laboratory hummed with the combined energies of human intuition and precursor quantum engineering. The sphere's emissions had reached new levels of coherence, its surface now displaying patterns of such complexity that even the most advanced alien sensors struggled to record them. "Dr. Walsh," Zara said carefully, "are you suggesting that the sphere's recent energy build-up, was it trying to get our attention?" Catherine confirmed. Like a bell ringing louder and louder, hoping someone would finally hear the music instead of just measuring the vibrations. The quantum harmonics shifted again, and new patterns began to emerge from the sphere's surface. Patterns that looked suspiciously like star charts, first science director ANX 427 announced, their thought patterns radiating amazement. "But these configurations, they're impossible. Unless they're showing us where the precursors went, Catherine finished softly. This isn't just a library, it's an invitation. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. After centuries of studying the sphere as a problem to be solved, they were finally understanding it for what it was, a message in a bottle, cast into the quantum sea by a civilization that had transcended their understanding of reality itself. And it had taken a human, with her species' unique blend of scientific knowledge and artistic intuition, to hear what it had been trying to tell them all along. The question is, Catherine said, her hands still moving across the controls, maintaining the delicate harmony between their civilizations, are we ready to accept the invitation? The patterns flowing from the sphere's surface seemed to pause, as if waiting for an answer. The next 48 hours in the quantum harmonics laboratory became a blur of discovery and revelation. Catherine hadn't slept, sustained by a combination of adrenaline and the growing certainty that they were on the verge of something unprecedented in galactic history. The coordinates are stabilizing, Zara announced, her crystalline form pulsing in harmony with the quantum frequencies that now filled the chamber. They point to, that's impossible. What is it? Catherine asked, her hands never leaving the control interface that maintained their connection with the sphere. According to these readings, the precursors didn't just leave our galaxy. First Science Director Enx 427 explained, their thought patterns radiating a mix of awe and disbelief. They transcended conventional spacetime entirely. The sphere's surface had become a living map of possibilities, showing paths through dimensions that their most advanced physics had only theorized about. But mixed with the astronomical data was something else, something that made Catherine's heart race with understanding. It's not just a map, she said softly. It's a symphony of creation itself. Look at these patterns. They're showing us how the quantum fabric of reality can be conducted. Dr. Van X's skepticism had evolved into reluctant fascination. Like music. Exactly like music. Catherine manipulated the controls, highlighting specific sequences. The precursors discovered that the universe itself operates on principles of harmony. Gravity, quantum mechanics, dark energy, they're all just different instruments in a cosmic orchestra. Administrator Kelvick's energy form condensed with intensity. And this knowledge, this is what they wanted to share. Not just share, Catherine replied, her eyes fixed on the shifting patterns before them. Teach. They wanted to find species capable of understanding reality not just as a set of mathematical equations, but as an ongoing act of creation, a dance of energy and possibility. The sphere's emissions pulsed stronger, as if in confirmation. New patterns emerged, showing sequences of such beauty and complexity that even the most hardened engineers found themselves moved by their elegance. But why? Zara asked, her crystalline form reflecting the quantum harmonics in mesmerizing patterns. Why leave this knowledge in such a form? Catherine smiled, her fingers dancing across the controls in perfect synchronization with the sphere's outputs. Because understanding the math isn't enough. The precursors realized that true mastery of quantum reality requires both precision and intuition, both analysis and artistry. They weren't just looking for intelligent life, they were looking for life that could comprehend beauty in the equations. The laboratory hummed with energies that defied conventional measurement. The quantum harmonics had reached a level of coherence that transformed the very air into shimmering waves of possibility. They ascended. First Science Director Enx 427 realized, their thought patterns radiating wonder. They found a way to transform their entire civilization into pure quantum harmony. And left us the sheet music, Catherine confirmed. Not just coordinates or technology, but a whole new way of understanding reality itself. Suddenly, the sphere's emissions changed. The quantum harmonics shifted to a new key, creating patterns of such complexity and beauty that even the most sophisticated alien sensors struggled to comprehend them. It's offering us a choice, Catherine announced, her voice filled with quiet awe. We can either preserve this knowledge, study it safely from a distance. Or, Administrator Kelvik prompted, or we can learn to play this cosmic symphony ourselves. Catherine's hands moved across the controls, matching the sphere's new harmonics. We can take the first steps on the same path the precursors followed. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just about solving an ancient puzzle or acquiring advanced technology. This was about evolutionary potential on a scale none of them had imagined. The risk, Dr. Van X began, is nothing compared to the possibility, Zara finished, her crystalline form vibrating in perfect harmony with the quantum frequencies. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in our history came from someone willing to step beyond the known, to dance with possibility. Catherine nodded, never taking her eyes off the shifting patterns before them. The precursors left us this gift not because we were ready, but because they believed we could be. They're offering us a chance to evolve beyond our current understanding, to see the universe not just as a place of physical laws and mathematical constants, but as an endless symphony of creation. The sphere's surface erupted in a display of quantum harmonics more beautiful than anything they'd yet seen. It was an invitation, a challenge, and a promise all in one. So, Catherine asked, looking around at the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, shall we learn to sing with the stars? One by one, the alien engineers moved to their stations. Quantum processes hummed to life. Crystalline forms and energy beings aligned themselves with the harmonic frequencies filling the chamber. And there, in a laboratory at the heart of the Galactic Engineering Council, representatives of 1,000 worlds began learning a new song, one that would change their understanding of reality forever. As Catherine's fingers danced across her control interface, blending Earth's music with quantum science, she couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the greatest discoveries came not from analyzing the universe, but from learning to dance with it. The symphony of stars had only just begun.